Hey everybody, it's your buddy Beard Grizzly. I haven't talked about this Destiny game in a while, but there are still plenty of others that are. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere with the game, just a matter that I've got family visiting, and that really does come first. That, and I've been having a lot of fun with Monster Hunter. It's kind of my home away from home, however, since it has been a series I've played since the early 2000s. Anyway, that's not what we're here for, and I don't necessarily need to explain myself and what it is that I'm enjoying because, well, I'm enjoying it. But that said, thank you for your support while I get things in order. Today we're looking over something that this guy came up with. I don't know, you might have heard of him. Some guy with that fake British accent and that thinks it gets him views with some opinions and thoughts on this Destiny lore, you know. Obvious kidding and sarcasm aside from my friend Byf, he just put in place a very lengthy video that goes over a few ways to add on to the world of Destiny, make it easier to jump into the lore, and for all intents, add in another layer of grind to the game. First off, if you haven't magically seen that video and you're watching this one, you really should check it out in the interest that you enjoy Destiny's lore, as it's a good staple for where we can go with it. Now, I can't hold a candle to that video, but what I can do is add my voice in for support, something that I think is sorely missed by some in the community, and why toxicity might take a bit heavier of a hold as it does in and around the community of really any game. Darn you people for enjoying your time playing a game instead of just talking about how much you enjoy it and, you know, playing it. For shame. My sarcasm's pretty thick today, isn't it? Ah well. My reply to Byf is this. Great start and amazingly well done mock-ups done by Iron Lord and Benny R. I would love to see this system added into the game again, since the books from D1 were a fantastic way to give me another layer or goal to shoot for. Since the idea of completing armor and weapon sets in some cases, especially with Eververse out there, is just out of the question, I'm left to look into something like grimoire and collectible scores or items as being my next object to grind for. And that's precisely the goal of Byf and crew on the updated archive, codex, and grimoire. But let's move past that, because I know that some of you are and have already thought that, with a book, a codex, that needed to be included in the game since, well, it was already half there in Destiny 1 with, say, the Age of Triumph book or something similar. I mean, I've talked about it already on this channel and how we can not only improve on what's listed, but also what we can do to make it easier to understand and pick up lore. Let's look at a few different games, a couple of which I won't be able to show because they'll flag this video on my channel faster than you can say, what's in the box? That's a Metal Gear joke, by the way. Metal Gear Solid 4 had this very interesting way of introducing or reminding the player of something happening, especially from the past. The game itself was pretty much this big old movie, so having these flashbacks for those unsure of what's actually going on, well, it helped a ton. You press a button multiple times, and not only does it make it seem like Snake is recalling these memories, but you get to see the situation that's being referenced, even if it's in single flashback form. My first playthrough, even as a vet to the series, I found myself doing this with every single moment that sprang up. It just added something extra to the game, and it was a great reflection on what it was that I had already done over the course of the last several years playing the series. Let's see if we can implement that idea into Destiny 2, especially when related with the ideas presented by Byf and team. The Codex screams having a system like this, even leaving some faces completely covered up as ones we never get to see, like, say, Olentan. Anytime somebody brings up Olentan, I just get a little giddy. I can't believe how many of his theories and ideas play back to my own within Destiny. Just, yeah, moving on. Really appreciated Olentan being a major moment in Byf's video. Olentan was a warlock I would have loved to have heard more about. Someone that has a place named after him on Io, and even an exotic ship design that ties back to what he was all about, called the Symmetry. It just so happens to be the ship I used myself. I wonder why I do such a thing. Anyway, let's take for example a card appears within the codex for Olentan. The first time you open it, you get this small spoken tidbit by someone that might be related to him or know of his theories, like Ikora for instance, which you can then replay this response as often as you want. Even if it's just 1 or 2 panels, some graphics behind it would also really help to set the tone for this character, and Traveler knows there's plenty of fan art out there that could possibly be used, or, you know, a comic book partnership that you just so happen to have at this point? Might be a thought. The voicing doesn't have to be much, but a brief introduction to them and what their story and lore entails, with finding items and the like about them, a point of expanding their current story within the game. Being able to pick up some extra treatises of Ulantan, or being able to pick up another artifact related to him, something like that, which Byf goes into in his video. But that's just it when it comes to a codex. It's something that can be expanded later on. As we visit different regions, we can expand on these entries that we have within the pages of the Codex, and heck, even in the Grimoire. This can add to the mysteries of that character and keep you coming back, sort of like how things went with the Eris Mysteries cards from Age of Triumph. The short version, if you don't know this card, Eris Morn basically went poof in a flash of hive magic or something. This is just one of those mysteries that can be expanded upon as we go along in the game, be it over expansions or otherwise. To tie this back to my example of MGS4, the idea is now the hooks are in you. You're interested in who these characters are from a couple lines of dialogue and a couple overall pieces of story that might exist behind them. Or at least that would be my hope. I know not everyone gets interested in a character or an instance or movie or whatever just in the same manners, but for me, this is all that I can sometimes take when really introducing a character and to really make me interested in what it is that's going on with them. So let me actually give you an example, a little bit of a write-up of what I would think would be okay to kind of introduce Ulantan to a new player. Ulantan was a warlock of the city, shunned for his ideas within the group known as the Symmetry. He modeled light and dark as being a mirror, as one not being able to exist without the other. With knowing what we know now of the Traveler and our light, his remaining records spark questions about what we truly know of the universe. What secrets lie in wait from Ulantan? Alright, to sum this up, the Codex can be expanded with expansions, and having an overall summary of what you're talking about can link back to a character you can follow from time to time. I don't think that's too silly to think about within a multimedia sense, especially with a visual game like Destiny. Being able to pause the game when a character's name is brought up and immediately go to that reference would also be a bit handy, having a pop-up window that would say, Erismorn entry added, press touchpad to see entry. Anyway, let's move on from this and get to a different topic of discussion. Weapons and armor have their own lore to talk about, and of course this is evident with exotics and certain class items so far having their own lore tabs. I would say this needs to be expanded upon, but it would also require the writing team to add in some more effort to these items. It would also be something where equipment can never be changed out, or at least not all the time or significantly, and hopefully Bungie doesn't pull a Taken King, so to speak, and wipe everything out for us that we've done over this first year. Let me explain what I mean, since this expands upon the Codex idea, I suppose, but it also expands upon a couple other ideas that Bungie has shown us in the past. Right now, if you go to a lore tab for a weapon, it's just done. That's it. There's no real need for me to keep using that weapon or to get any better with it, especially in cases of a system that doesn't foster random rolls any longer. So now I'm back to using Uriel's Gift and a couple other choice weapons that vastly make a difference compared to other guns. Where's my motivation to get better with choice equipment? Well, even if these rewards aren't in the form of items or drops or extra equipment, why not expand upon a certain aspect related to that weapon or piece of armor? Let's start with weapons, because they're a little easier to visualize. I mean, we're Guardians, and we just like to shoot things, so why not? Let's say you get a hold of Graviton Lance. Now, this gun's not necessarily the greatest thing out there per the moment, but it does have something that interests me. And that is that it was recovered in Old Chicago. Oh, okay. Just gonna tease me like that? Cool. Thanks, Bungie. Yeah, just keep putting this on. The idea that, you know, everything is old over there in America. Now, go out and start shooting with the weapon. Go out and get different layers and levels of kills, be it in PvP, PvE, strikes, raids, you name it. This, then, unlocks different levels of the log, and I don't just mean in relation to Old Chicago. It could talk about the user of the weapon to tie back to other cards, or it could speak on tests done with the weapon a bit more to add more flavor into it. It also doesn't need to always be the same challenges or even have one for each layer, though I feel that a derived usage in other areas of making those challenges varied would add on to a want to use it in different scenarios. The real kicker here is we've already seen something like this done before, and it was with an ARG or alternate reality game that I feel some have forgotten about. Owl Sector was, in my opinion, one of the coolest little tiebacks to an in-game event out there. Learning about another group in the city, learning about works done by Clovis Bray and others in the Golden Age, learning just how unsafe the city really is, even back before Rise of Iron came out. It was just well done, at least in my mind. Still, one of these transmission types had slowly unlocked their logs over time. The breaks, you see, were when a new log had been opened for us to read, be it from us in current Tower days or from the past in Golden Age times. Now, these logs and the amount of them is rather expansive, and I'd be silly to think that they would go this far for each and every weapon or class item, but just having 2 or 3 extra logs added to each weapon would also get back to one thing I've had a major complaint about when it comes to lore tabs, and that's length and detail. The newer tabs within Destiny 2 really do beg for more added onto them, as the majority of implications that I can tie back to them comes back to Destiny 1's grimoire and older flavor text on items and equipment. This doesn't really fill me with a sense of understanding for a new piece of equipment. It also doesn't help with understanding some of the other questions that have always been asked from back in the day. Red Death, anyone? Who used this thing? How was it forged? Why does the Vanguard not want to see it around so much anymore? These are questions we never had an answer for. Even then, like the Codex, these challenges can be added on as time progresses. It can also be something where you get a weekly challenge and have to complete 10 or 20 or whatever in order to unlock the next entry. With the amount of smart weapons within Destiny's lore like Mida, Super Good Advice, and Darcy, and many others, this just begs to see more entries added and unlocked over time. The same could be done with armor, especially class items. Completing different challenges could be concurrent of your weapon challenges or 100% dependent on the place you get the class item from. If you have the Vanguard one, make it so that you have to complete so many strikes, heroic or not, do the Nightfall, turn in so many tokens, the list goes on. If it's on, say, Nessus, then kills on the planet might be enough. And I think fail-safe's class items might work out to be the best idea and example of what I mean. There's a lot of things we don't know about the collapse, and fail-safe has the possibility to look into and open old records for us. I mean, her and Tyra talk all the time. What exactly are they saying to each other? The Owl Sector record expansion idea can easily be transferred to this bond and allow for us to see more of the records behind it. For lore gamers, if you can call me and others that, this would be a great way to expand on things that either didn't make it into cutscenes or expand on thoughts already presented within the world. You know, like lore is really meant to do. Yes, it's something extra on part of the writing team to do to try and connect the dots a bit more, but it's also rather independent of each area. Titan and Nessus would be different logs entirely, where Titan could be focused on the rise and fall of the arcology, Nessus on the crew of Exodus Black. Granted, Strung and Drang already have some ties to Exodus Black, sure, but they're of a particular crew-level nature. I still need to hear about extra details, how the crew tried to survive, the launch of Exodus Black from Earth, what the status of the stasis members are within the stasis pods on Exodus Black, or what they were, what's up with Siva, and why Failsafe is always talking about it. You get the picture, and these are just questions that I have off the top of my head. There's so many that can continue to be expanded upon in a rather easy way, and it all comes down to bringing me back into the game through challenges and expansive logs. Now, some of these could just be additional options into your weekly rituals, so perhaps this isn't the best way or example of doing things, but it's something extra to do nonetheless, and it expands on the story of some of your favorite items as well. It adds another reason to be happy to grab up a new exotic weapon or piece of armor. I'm actually reminded of a system used in Nier Automata in which, as you upgrade a weapon, it slowly reveals another segment of the story behind it, or something linked with it. The concept isn't anything new, and Bungie certainly isn't without some form of reference for how they could expand on this system. I'm also thinking back on how Monster Hunter World has implemented a system in which you can get rewarded simply for playing the game and carrying out tasks that you'll most likely end up doing within the game anyway, and being able to constantly refill these requests in town. A system like this would help to keep the grind alive a bit longer and open up further stories. The rewards, I feel, can be argued until we're blue in the face, but for me, games have always been more about the journey, more than just about the destination and endpoint and what my gear looks like. They're about worlds I would want to live in, not just to visit. Any other way to engage me within would be vastly helpful. Anyway, I think that's where I'll leave my thoughts for now. I just wanted to expand upon Byf's overall ideas, along with all the hard work that Iron Lord and Benny R put into the Codex and Grimoire archives. I think this is a great way to expand interaction within the world and know more of what's going on, even if it is just concepts. Patch notes can even discuss updates to current stories, and it's an ever-expansive format instead of one that's left with just a few stories over the course of one expansion or update. Adding an extra blurb, even something that sticks with you for something small? I'd love to see that. I'm going to keep rambling if I don't stop now, so let me know your thoughts on my expanded ideas from Byf's video. That's a mouthful. Anyway, leave comments below on something else you feel would be a great way to expand on Destiny's lore and ways to interact with the community a bit more. I thank you guys for giving me the time of day, and if you liked what you heard or want to hear more from me in the future, you know the buttons to press for all of that. I'll see you next Spacetime Guardians. Take care.